Guess what? I am really proud of you girls and ladies. I'm so proud of you because you stepped out into changing things up, didn't you? Yeah, out of your routine. And that's a huge step. This is an opportunity to meet new ladies, make new friends, which is amazing. And if you turn, do you see this Living Loved? Right. This Living Loved breakdown of the conference here. If you turn it over, on the back is a place to get ladies' numbers and contact information. Okay? So please, get the contact information, like switch these around so that you can get new friends, new people to call on the weekends, right? Someone to talk to, someone to pray with, someone to talk about what God did in your life, someone new. And on here are further, so that when you leave this conference, you can stay connected. And it's events located at Bridgeway Church. These are women's events stemming from this conference where you can stay in touch and share your new experiences in your single walk and the changes that you're maybe struggling with or loving, right? With other friends. So check out those events, put them in your calendar. So now for just a few minutes, I would like you, okay, to go around the table, say your name, and then I would like you to share. If it's too difficult for you, of course you don't have to, but at least say your name, give a big smile, give a high five to everybody at your table, let them know you're glad you're here. And also say something fun or funny that's happened in your life this week. Like the day that I went around my house when I didn't have time looking for my glasses, and guess where they were? On my head. Right? And Jim had an opportunity to laugh at me about it. So something funny that happened to you, take a few seconds to do that. So give your name and something that brought joy in your life this past couple weeks. Awesome. Awesome. So we stepped out of our routine, and that was awesome. I love it. And do you know what this does? When you step out of your routine in your single life, do you know what that does? It makes your single life alive. We want our single lives to be living and alive, where it's full of life. And we're not doing the same thing day in and day out. And that's part of the purpose of this conference. I had a list of all the women that I felt like God had told me were coming to this conference. There are many different single situations here, and I realize that. Not all of you are walking the same situation. And I don't want you to be forgotten. So I made some lists of all the people that I wanted to address here. And I was losing sleep at night over, like, God, I'm not going to remember all this. You know how speakers get up here and just talk? They never use notes. They just open their mouths and Holy Spirit does his thing. And so I was going, Holy Spirit, you're going to have to, because I don't want to forget women. And so I lost some sleep last Saturday night, was stressing about it in church, where I was sitting there, and God just dropped in my mind, what's wrong with reading it? And all of a sudden I felt freedom, right? He said, what's wrong with reading it? I don't want you to forget any either. Oh, so guess what? Since then I've been sleeping. Right on. God always comes through, doesn't he? Yeah. Like when you least expect it. So, I'm going to read this part. And why this conference and the different single situations that we are speaking to. First of all, the conference is to empower you to do something different and to get unstuck wherever that is in your life. And first, we always want to know God's best for us, don't we? Yes. We want to hear his words regarding our purpose and destiny, get his vision on how to broker heaven and heaven's will here in our single walk. And you might be thinking, why a married woman is doing this conference? Because for a long time, I was unsuccessfully single, needy, and where my neediness was just so huge in my desperation that I'd push all the good people away. But then I flipped. And God helped me to become empowered and full, walking my single life with empowerment and being successfully single. And since I have walked that, and I have walked the journey of being flipped from one to the other, I would like to share that with you. Even though I'm married, I was successfully single for a lot of my single time. And so let's speak to these situations. Some of you are here primarily because you are interested in community and fellowship with other singles in your church family. You want to meet people here. You want to have fun. You want to get numbers. Do things with other single ladies. That's amazing. Some of you are not in need of a full life, empowerment, and action. You have it already. And many of you have worked on yourself for years, and for a lot of years, and you are here to get more of what God wants you to be and do in your single walk with him. You want to increase all the good and all the loving and the love that you already have, and you're in the right place. You are those who God is clearly speaking to about your single life and giving you direction and purposefully waiting. And there's a lot of you here like that. He's talking to you, and you're waiting with purpose. And there are those of you here today who are floundering, searching, needy, and empty, with the years passing you by. And all of those of you in between. There are some of you here who are always choosing the wrong guy, getting disappointed, disillusioned, and hurt, having what we call a broken picker. Your picker's broke. It's like you just can't choose the right one, right? My picker's broke. Your boundaries need to be adjusted, responding to red flags by running as hard as you can in the opposite direction. Do not look back, right? Do not pass go, despite what your emotions and hormones are telling you. And I tell you what, that's big when you do that. God honors that. He sees it, and we know he sees, doesn't he? There can be those here with wounds or bitterness in your heart that need to be healed. We'll speak to that. And you are not ready or wanting to date. You're mourning lost loves. You might be walking, feeling like, I give up. God doesn't care. Or there's no good men where I live or work. and you know all the single men at church. Or maybe even you've gotten a word from God that you are to do nothing, and he will bring you a husband. I get that. And I also know that there's a lot of you here who are not wanting to get married, but you want a more whole single life, filled with joy and life. That's what we want, isn't it? Yeah. And so God's already told you, do nothing, he's going to bring you a husband. These are for ladies that's what they want. And I get that. I heard a gal say to me once, I've had so many prophetic words about God bringing the person, and with years passing, I'm taking it off the shelf and putting it in the trash because it hurts too much to look at. And I get that. And if your situation is not here, if I didn't name your situation, feel free at the small table discussion, right, to bring it up. Because we know things kept hidden don't get healed, do they? You need to just be raw, right? Get it out, cry, be raw. These gals, these are gals you don't know, right? Should be now. So it doesn't matter, does it? Say whatever you want, feel free, be raw, be real, be transparent. Even if I did bring up your issue. Our purpose today is to speak on these individual issues, and I'm leading the social aspect of being successfully single. And a big reminder, this was my experience and what God told me to do. Some of you may be led differently, completely differently from how I was led, with a lot less doing than I did. And actually, let him do it all. Like you'll be hearing from Armin and Megan in a little bit, a recently married couple, where God did it all. So there's everything in between here, but I'm just telling you what he told me. And so what we want is for you to hear his individual voice to you through all of the different experiences and life's treasures that are being shared with you here today. That he's going to drop in your spirit what resonates with you, that's going to call you to action, that's going to be your charge. You're going to walk out of here with a charge of breaking up the routine and doing something different, which is what we have to do, isn't it? To get, like the old saying says, to get different results, right? So, but for those of you who feel stagnant and stuck in your social life, with the years passing you by, I have a few words to share with you about how to get things moving, to get some movement, to get some God in there. You know, when things start happening in a situation, you can feel God's movement, can't you? It's like a little engine gets in there and things start shifting and changing. And sometimes that doesn't happen until we grab his hand and do something different, right? That nothing, it just stays the same. And then we get an idea from somebody, a friend talks to us, we meet somebody, some random person that says something, and it's like, oh, I think I'm going to try that. And you do that, and all of a sudden, things start shifting, right? And that's partnering with God as we wait. We wait on God right? But there are things that we do that he charges us to do as we wait, holding his hand, being his hands and feet here. So I would like to help you get things moving in your life and would like to share my testimony, and I want you to be encouraged. And I want you to know that this is not an all about getting a husband talk here. It's not about getting married. It has nothing, what I'm going to say has nothing to do with that. Even though that may be the fruit. To be fully, successfully single, which is attractive, isn't it? It's attractive to other people rather than pushing them away. So marriage might be the fruit, but this has nothing to do with that. And for those of you who might be stuck in it's all about a husband mindset, we're going to shake that up a little bit here today. And maybe you can think about something else and do something else too. My testimony is, in 1999, I had a boyfriend. And we were not walking in God's ways at all. And God began convicting me of that. And you know, when that conviction comes upon you, it's weighty. And you really can't feel good about yourself until you do something about it. We can try to rationalize as much as we can, but pretty soon you just know, nah, I can't do that. I can't continue like this anymore. We've all been there, right? And so I let him go. And I was 50 at the time. And the years began passing by. And then when I was 55, I was pillow pounding one night, getting really angry at my situation and at God. Going, God, because I knew when I let John go, that God was going to see that, and he was going to bless that, because you know you're doing the right thing. And it was like 5 years later, where are you, God? What on earth? Here I am now 55, and still without a boyfriend or a significant other. And if I had known this, I wouldn't have let John go. I told him. And he said to me, get a life. I mean, I could have said, what? How dare you talk to me like that? But instead, being who I was, and I knew it was God's voice, I soberly pondered those words. Woo, what on earth did you mean by that? And I began talking to him about that and what this get a life meant and what it was going to look like. And by the way, he never said anything about get a husband. He never said anything about get married. He never said anything about a man. And for me, he never did. Now, some women get pictures of them at the altar with the guy. They get visions, and it pans out, right? But for me, he kept the curtains drawn. Nothing, nada. And I guess I was figuring, well, if I'm going to be single, he wants me to have fun and enjoy it, right? And he also wanted me to be fulfilled rather than unfulfilled and unwanted. He wanted me to be empowered as a single woman rather than moving in a well of need. And by the way, as I mentioned before, that's attractive. Being actively, happily single, where you're not always looking at everybody else, but you're so empowered and focused on what you're doing, and this is so great. that you really are not drawn to looking at what everybody else is doing, right? And people are drawn to that. He also wanted me to be less socially awkward. At the time, in mixed company and with men, because my need for love and companionship was so great, so huge, that when I would talk to men or women, but especially men, I'd freeze like a hand was around my throat. Or I'd talk like a Debbie Downer, telling everybody or the guys all about my problems, because I was so needy. I needed someone to fix me. And so how did that go, right? How was that working for me? Oh, duh, right? That's a no-brainer. He also wanted me to practice my social skills to become less awkward and stiff, to have joy, laughter, and fun with others, and especially with men, to be lighthearted, positive, and have a sense of humor. Like if I was with a fella that I didn't really know, and I'm judging, right? I'm going, ooh, I don't like that about him. Ooh, I don't like that. Ooh, this, that, the other, right? You know how your mind does. At least my mind. He told me to quit it. Quit doing that. Just enjoy whoever you're with. Even if this is a bummer date, of course he's not a match for you, right? Have fun. He's buying you dinner. Enjoy the movie. Find some fun things to laugh about, right? And it was all practicing how to be less socially awkward, where I could be relaxed and draw people out, find out stuff about them, look at the good, draw the gold out of them, right? They already know their stuff. Everybody knows their stuff. They just don't know the beauty in them a lot of times. So we draw the gold out. And so he had me practice that and just being fun, having fun. And where that hand around my throat began loosening. Some. I still get it now and then, but it began loosening. And so around that time, I began listening to New Life Live, which is a radio show with Steve Arterburn, Henry Cloud, Jill Townsend, probably some other people on there. And it's a radio show, I think it's on 94.7 now in the afternoons. And people call in, and it's amazing. And a lot of singles would call in. I found out about a book called How to Get a Date Worth Keeping. And this changed my life. They have a program in here. I didn't really do all the program like it says, but it shifted my mindset completely on what it was like to be single. I became a different person after reading this book. What they did is they gave me a brand new mindset on waiting and how it was we were supposed to wait and how to successfully wait. And also the changes in me that needed to happen and the steps that I could take to successfully wait more. Better, right? We know we all need to wait on God, but does he mean for us to wait in powerless inaction? I got flipped from that book. So the years weren't slipping me by in stagnant singleness. I was flipped into a new purpose and partnering with God to experience changes in me and changes in my situation. I learned from the book that gathering community, making friends, and especially dating is not about finding a husband, is not about marriage. It puts too much pressure on the event. You know, have you ever been in the he's the one syndrome, where every guy you go out with, he's the one, you throw all your eggs in that basket? It's not about that. It's about learning dating, that you're dating and learning about what you want and how to be a better communicator, and how to, your own issues will be highlighted. And so you learn about which issues that you need to focus on and that you need God's help with. And then you seek help for that. And it's all about, another one point here, self-development and being comfortable with your identity. Right? So, I'm never going back. I am never going back to how it was. Once I stepped out into the new life that God had for me as an empowered, successful single, I decided I was never going back. You ever experience that and taste that? You never turn around. And so quickly here, because I'm running out of time, I just want to tell you some practical steps. Well, this is how I did it. Okay, this is the how I did it part. Okay, this is how I did it. If any of it pings with you, feel free. But the first thing I did is I went out to practice being socially unawkward. I was looking at it as dating learning, just practicing. First, and with girlfriends. First, I made girlfriends, and I joined a ballroom class. Actually, I went there by myself. I went to a beginner's ballroom class. Went there by myself. It was kind of hokey, you know, it was, but I met a girlfriend there, so I got her number. And so we would meet there every time. And I would make sure that I went out with her at least 3 times a month. I had a busy job. I didn't really have time, but at least 3 times a month. Then we began going to a West Coast swing club. And West Coast swing is we saw the West Coast swing, ooh, we want to learn that. So we went to a West Coast swing club, which was very nice, and started mixing and mingling and taking the beginners West Coast swing classes. And again, I tried to do this 3 times a month with her. And then I began meeting other girls to go do things with. I also found online some Bible studies from different churches. So I began going to Bible studies from many different churches. Some were singles Bible studies and some were mixed company Bible studies. But I mixed it up to meet different people. And they were fine welcoming me into their fellowship. I also went on a date now and then, not that often, but now and then in the beginning. And it was not fruitful relationship-wise. A lot of times it was a drag, you know, basically. But it was an opportunity to get better. And a lot of times even going out with my girlfriends, getting up, getting dressed, going out was a drag. But every single time I did it, I was thankful I did. I came home going, yay, I am so glad I did this. So fight through that if you find it like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to stay in my comfort zone on my couch tonight. Don't do it. And to round things out and to become fully socially active, I was on a couple Christian dating sites where I met Jim from Colorado on a Christian dating site. And by the time I met him, I would, on Thursday nights, like when I would meet guys, I would get their numbers, even if I knew it wasn't a match, like out and about, and I knew it wasn't a match, and I knew that they were wholesome Christian guys, I would get their name and number and say, look, me and some girls and maybe a couple of other guys are going to go out next weekend, and I'd like your number so that I can call you and maybe you might want to come. So I was gathering names and numbers of people, and on Thursday nights I was calling them to see if they wanted to go out. So groups of us were meeting places and doing things. And by the time I met Jim, he actually broke it off with me for a while because I was so unavailable and out there doing so many things. But he came back, didn't he? And that's another story. So right now, what we want to do is take a few minutes here in your small group, and I want you to think about the ways that God is talking to you, and you're going to hear a lot more here in this conference, how he's talking to you about how he can partner with you to get more life in your singleness, right? And so everybody, there's some questions there for the group leaders if you want to choose one of those or come up with your own, and this is the time to bring it all out, right? Bear it all. Get raw. Get real. Go for it.
What does it mean to you, to walk the single power rather?
It's so neat, that all of this is part of the process. You guys coming here today is part of your process. How many of you actually, when you signed up, you wanted to come, but when it came time to get up, get dressed, and come here, how many of you were kind of, I really don't want to do this? Any of you? Oh, well, come on, be brave. Right. Yeah, I know. If you hadn't raised your hand, I'd have told you to. Yeah, But you did. It's part of the process, isn't it? Like the date that Barbara went on last night. Right? Good or bad, connection or not, a big bummer. She got a good meal, went to the movies, had some good talk, right? Part of the process. Right? And just to let you know that all of your processing, so to speak, you can walk empowered, and you can walk fulfilling the promises of God to you and his purposes. You don't have to wait for a husband to do that. Yeah, God has a lot of powerful things for you to do and lives to change in your life. You don't have to wait for a husband. And actually, that's attractive to people, right? When you're stepping out and moving in the power of God and affecting people's lives and ministering, even when you're not, and when no one asks you to. It's an amazing thing. So get going, right? Keep it up. I know a lot of you are Bridgeway people, so it's like, I'm not saying anything new, am I? It's like, oh, duh, we already do that. So you're just, okay, I'm a repeater, so I'm just repeating it. So right now we're going to have a little small group discussion. So whatever's burning on your heart or what God's dropped into your spirit that you want to talk about, be raw, get real, and go for it.